Hi, this is Adrienne Barbeau, and you're listening to The Claw's Corner.
But now for some of us, that choice has been taken away. A secret society exists and is living among all of us. They're neither people nor animals, but something in between. Monstrous mutations whose violent natures
Ready, one? Take one.
must be satisfied. I know what you're thinking, because I've been where you are.
That's enough. Leave it.
And it's possible
Leave
to
it.
imagine.
Cut. Leave it!
But I have proof, and tonight I'm going to show you something. Make you believe.
Welcome to a very special episode of The Claw's Corner, the Zoom edition. Today's guest starting close to 200 movies, 5 television series, and almost 400 commercials. She has worked with everyone. The Reader's Digest abridged version includes Drew Barrymore, John Carradine, Kevin McCarthy, Dick Miller, Michael J. Fox, Jake Busey, Buddy Ebsen, Bill Bixby, Dudley Moore, Bo Derek, Kenneth Tobey, Michael Berryman, Judd Hirsch, C. Thomas Howell, and Slim Pickens, just to name a few. She has worked with some of the best filmmakers in the business. They include Joe Dante, Blake Edwards, Peter Jackson, and Steven Spielberg. Her movies include The Hills Have Eyes, The Howling, Cujo, The Frighteners, Critters, E.T. the Extraterrestrial, and many, many, many more. Please welcome to the show author, producer, healer, intuitive life coach, and actress, Dee Wallace. How are you, Dee?
I'm fabulous. How are you?
I am doing great. I want to start off first by thanking my Uncle John Wilson for setting this interview up. He is the best. Yes. Thank you very much. And I want to thank you for being on the show, The Claw's Corner. It's great to have you. I've been a huge fan since even before E.T. with The Howling and everything. We're going to get into some of this. So let's get right into it.
Okay, baby.
All right. You are like the happiest person alive. I have to say that.
Why not? Right?
I know, exactly.
Why not? I mean, life's too long to be crummy.
Well, the reason I bring that up, because just very recently I rewatched your TED Talk. It was called The Common Ground of Self. And what life that you created out of adversity. I mean, you've been through so much, and for you to be where you are right now is amazing.
This is true. And that's one of my biggest messages to everybody is no matter what crap has happened to you or who did it to you, you are at choice in this moment to be happy.
Yes,
you are at choice to redefine yourself and get on with your life. So get going.
Couldn't have said it better myself. So as I said in the intro, besides working in close to 200 movies, 5 television series, and almost 400 commercials, you are also a healer and intuitive life coach. How and when did you become involved in that?
Oh, dear Lord, over 30 years ago now, I've been doing this.
Wow.
It started when my husband passed away, and I dropped to my knees and I said, I don't want to be pissed off and I don't want to be a victim. I want a way we can heal ourselves. And within seconds, there was this message that I heard, and it said, use the light within you to heal yourself. So I'm still learning what that really means and how to put it into practice. But here I am over 30 years later. I took it into my acting studio, and their lives and their work started changing. And then they wanted me to do it for their parents and their families and then their friends. And here I am 30 some years later, and I have clients all over the world that I work with every day.
Yeah. Well, you have a radio show, and I've listened to the podcast. It's called Conscious Creation Radio Show. Tell me about that.
Yeah, well, my show is a free call-in show. You can call in every Sunday morning at 9 a.m. Pacific time and ask the channel about any block around any subject. There's nothing off limits. Sex, rock and roll, weight. That's right, baby. Weight, relationships, money, anything. Because most of us think we're fighting the world, but we're really fighting ourselves.
Mhm. Yeah, no, I agree. You mentioned the channel. What is the channel and how do you access it?
You ask. That's how you get everything in life. You ask. You know, in the good book, it says, ask and you receive.
Mm-hmm.
However,
Okay.
the original meaning of ask is claim or demand. Most people don't know that. So it's not, oh, please, if I'm worthy, could I have this? Maybe it would, it's, this will be delivered to me now.
So what you
And,
think is similar to The Secret then? Because there's a book called The
well,
Secret.
it goes, The Secret was a great starting point, and it was a great conversation point to open up people's thinking about it. There's, creation is really quite simple. We, because we believe in struggle, we want to believe that it's harder than it is. Really, all you have to do to create anything is find a love place, and a love place is anything that opens your heart and puts a smile on your face. I go right to my doggy. That's what I use, my freedom doggy. And then whatever you want, you feel into that love, and you connect what you want with the love. How it's created is not up to you.
It's not?
It's not up to you. Your job is just to get into alignment and harmony and love with everything you want.
Very good.
So most of us go, I want money, but I hate money because I don't have any money. If that ain't going to get you money.
Well, Mark
And I
Twain is
wish
a
I
great-
had more money. And I'm going to say 500 affirmations a day. I have money. I have, none of that's going to work for you.
Well, I've listened to your podcast, as I mentioned, and I love how you are with your the people that call in. You give them tough love. You're like, nope,
Yeah.
that's not it. You're not doing it right. Do this. And I just love the way you are, and your message is great. And speaking of that, as a healer, what is your message to the world? Because you have an important
Love.
message. Love yourself.
And love yourself.
Mhm.
None of us are taught to love ourselves. And it really is the key to everything, guys. The more you love yourself, the more you sing hallelujah to yourself, the more you know how magnificent you are, the more the universe wants to play with you.
Yeah. Well, I have to say, I get your newsletter every morning. I am inspired. I always have a smile on my face when I open up my emails and read that.
Oh, thank you.
You're very
Well,
welcome.
I just started doing the daily emails to help everybody get through the COVID stuff.
Yeah.
And now they've become so popular. Now I'm afraid I'm committed to writing them forever now. But
Well,
I just go into the channel and the channel goes, write about this. I go, really? And they, that's what I mean. If you get yourself out of the way, the universe will give you the direction. The universe will talk to you. Like, if you have mechanical things that break down one right after another, or you're on a phone call and the call drops out, or you're on the computer and you get a surge, that's the universe saying there's something up about communication for you.
mm-hmm.
You better look at your limiting beliefs about communication.
And all of this came to you on your own. You woke up one morning after your husband died and you didn't go to teaching to learn how to do this on your own, or did you?
Well, no, I did study a philosophy called conceptology, which
Okay.
was really one of the beginning of all the beginning.
Okay.
Christopher and I studied that when I was in my 30s. But it was more, it wasn't really channeling. It was more about being in love with the world and the universe.
Okay.
This all really became solidified, as I said, when my husband died. And I dropped to my knees and said, I don't want to be pissed off and I don't want to be a victim. I want a way we can heal ourselves.
Yeah, I love that
And
attitude.
that you have to get up every morning. See, what most people don't understand is your thoughts don't have to be your thoughts.
Mm-hmm.
Your perspectives don't have to be your perspective.
Yeah.
Right? You can pick any thought you want to think. You can pick how you want to feel. But most of us think we're ingrained in life the way it is, and it's just not true. In every moment, you've got the choice to go, you know, this thought about me being too fat and not pretty is not going to get me the relationship I want.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to start consciously choosing to love myself and look at myself and go, Dee, you're beautiful and you're amazing. And there's a lot of guys out there that you're going to be beautiful to. Because we, not only is it about how we see ourselves,
Yeah.
but it's also about how we see the world and how we see the world accepting us and seeing us. And all those things have to be in alignment.
I want to go back a couple years. How did you become the Dell comic queen? And what was it like working with Gene Autry?
A couple of years, huh?
A couple of years.
Yeah, he's talking about when I was like 6 and 8 years old.
So about 15 years ago.
My dad, yeah, thanks. Love you, honey. My dad worked for Dell Comics, which was a subsidiary of Disney. And in Kansas City,
which is where you grew up.
Yeah, that's where I grew up. But before Gene Autry, there was Robert Wagner.
Wow.
And he came into town. Now, somehow my mom and dad had gotten Disney to sign off, since we're only in Kansas City, right? To allow me to wear the banner that said Dell Comic Queen on it. And I had this cheesy little cardboard crown with sequins, right? On it. And so anybody that came through Kansas City, I did photo ops with if they were connected to Disney in any way. So I met Robert Wagner and took pictures with Robert, which it was really funny later in my career when I went to do one of his shows. I took a picture of us. I'm not sure he was too pleased about it.
Oh, that's funny. Hey, I think you were on Heart to Heart.
I was on Heart to Heart, yeah. What a nice guy he is, though. Really great. And
That's
Gene
funny.
was so sweet because, you know, he's stuck with this little kid. He's got to put me up on the horse and ride me around the big arena. He was such a good sport in looking back on all of it. Just a really sweet man. I just, you know, I just was always brought up with, you can do it, and people love you, and just go be happy and go do it, right?
Well, that's a great segue, because I've heard you say in the past, and I love this line, you said naivete is, you owe your success to naivete.
I do. Look, if you're naive, you don't look at the world negatively.
Mm-hmm.
You just don't. So when I went off to Kansas or to New York, I'd never been out of Kansas in my life. And I went, I'm going to go be a movie star.
Hey, why not? I have nothing to do on Saturday. Let's become a movie star.
Yeah. And So the first day I arrived in New York, this is an amazing story, you see. I taught high school in Kansas City.
Mhm.
And in the high school, we got the New York Times. And in the New York Times was this article that Hal Prince was looking for an unknown to star in a Little Night Music. So I wrote him this very cheesy letter and sent him even a cheesier picture. And 3 weeks later, his assistant called and said, Mr. Prince would like to fly you to New York.
Wow.
Yeah. Now, this is how I was raised. Methodist, good little girl, always told the truth. I said to her, oh, that's awesome. What day does Mr. Prince need me there? And she gave me the date. And I said, oh, you know what? I land at 2 o'clock. I already have my flight. What time does it? Well, you wouldn't need to be to the theater until 5 o'clock. I went, oh, good. So Mr. Prince doesn't have to spend the money from, and I'm not a real blonde, right? So, yeah, could have had a first class flight to New York, but no.
Nope.
Could have gone in and stayed probably at a nice hotel overnight, been rested. No. So the day I arrived in New York, here's another naivete moment. I took my 3 bags, which had everything I owned, put them in a cab, handed him the address and said, could you please take this to this address because that's where I'm going to live, but I have to go down to Rockefeller Center to audition for Hal Prince. And they got there.
I was going to say, you're very trusting, aren't you?
Yeah, well, naive. Yeah. So they got there. I got down to the last 5 girls in the dancing and the acting. And then the assistant said, well, Mr. Prince would like to hear you sing now. And I went, oh, I didn't know he had to sing. And she looked at me and she said, well, dear, it is a musical. So the accompanist said, what key, honey? And I said, well, or Mr. Prince said, just sing Happy Birthday, honey. And he says, what key? And I went, somewhere in the middle. But I got down to the last 5 girls and I talked to all those Broadway gypsies. I knew who to study with. I knew what singing teacher to go to. I got all these tips. And, the next day I went to a coffee shop and this guy walks up to me and says, you look like you just got here. I said, I did. I just got here from Kansas. He said, you know what? Will you sit with me for an hour? I'm going to give you the lowdown about everything in the city because somebody did that for me when I first arrived.
Wow.
That's what I mean. If you just say yes and you're in for the ride and you're in to love everything you do, the universe goes, I want to go play with her. Right?
Well, here's another example of that because you began your career in television appearing in episodes of The Streets of San Francisco, Starsky and Hutch, and Policewoman. So tell me how you and some cookies earned your first role playing a waitress on the television show Lucas Tanner.
Okay, well, it's still this way today. It's very, very hard to get onto a studio lot.
Yeah.
And that's where all the casting directors were. So I did what we always do when we want to go meet somebody in the Midwest. We bake cookies and we take them over to their house. So I baked oh my God, I can't even tell you how many chocolate chip cookies I baked. Put them in nice little baskets, wrapped them up in beautiful cellophane, put them in the back of my car, drove up to the guard gate, and I said, yeah, I got some deliveries here. And he went, all right, go on through.
Really?
Was that easy? I parked and I dropped my cookies off with my picture and resume and a little note. And the last guy I got to was Reuben Cannon, who happened to be the head of casting for Universal. Yeah. And he walked out and he went, oh, chocolate chip cookies, they're my favorite. Why don't you come in, honey? Come on in, we'll talk for a minute. When I was there, he gets a call. The girl that was playing the waitress, who had 5 lines, was sick. And they were literally ready to shoot in a half an hour. And he looked at me and he went, "What size do you wear?" And I said, "What size do you need?" And I squeezed myself into that size 4 dress. I don't know how I did it, but that was my first gig.
Never say no. I love that attitude. Now, your first feature is the iconic motion picture, The Hills Have Eyes. Tell me your experience working on that and with the great Wes Craven. What was it like working with him and on the cast of that film? Because I love Michael Berryman. I've met him several times at conventions.
Yeah.
He is one of the most nicest, down-to-earth guys.
He's a sweetheart and so incredibly intelligent, really smart.
Yes.
You know, I auditioned for it and got the part. And it was a tough shoot, let me tell you. We were shooting in the Mojave Desert, which was very far. It was literally within the 2, if they had taken us 2 more miles, they would have had to pay gas and put us up in a hotel. That's how far it was.
Wow.
So about 4 days into it, my fiance, who ended up to be my husband of 8 years, said to me, "Honey, you can't keep doing this. You're going to fall asleep at the wheel." So I got some cheesy little hotel down there and stayed down there. You know, we were all making scale, so we didn't really have enough money to pay for a hotel. But, and it really was, let's put on a show. You know, we all stayed in one trailer, all of us stayed in one trailer, and the toilet broke. So I spent a lot of time in my car. And, but I loved working with the cast, and I loved working with our beloved director.
Oh yeah, Wes Craven.
You know, he started out being a college professor. Did you know that?
Yeah.
And he was very, very quiet, didn't say a lot, kind of directed like this, you know. And here comes Dee in the tarantula scene, freaked out that I've got to put this thing on me, you know, and I have to freak out in the scene. So I'm like in La La Land already. And somebody happens to drop the tarantula on me and start screaming as they say, "All right, roll camera." And I lost it. I just lost it. And I started screaming, and then everybody finally calmed down, and Wes said very quietly, "Well, that was an interesting beginning. Let's try that again."
Okay.
He was, I really appreciated the balance he brought to the set.
Yeah. Well, you worked with so many legendary directors. Do you find that the more established directors are less micromanagement managers than the new directors because they have less to prove?
Oh, God, yes.
Yeah.
Oh, God, yes. And, you know, the sign of a good director is that he knows exactly what he wants, and he lets you know what he wants. And then he also gives you the room to bring in your ideas and your hits, I call them, that happen in the moment. You know, a good director trusts the people that he's hired.
Yeah. Well, they have less to prove too. They've been doing movies for years, so they already know they're talented, so they don't have to say, "I'm in charge. You have to listen to me." Yeah. Which is
exactly.
good.
They trust their own talent. They trust your talent. Yeah.
Well, The Howling is definitely one of my favorite werewolf movies of all time. And you worked in that movie alone. You worked with so many great actors: John Carradine, Kevin McCarthy, Slim Pickens, Dick Miller, Kenneth Tobey. But this story I love, and I've heard you say it before. I want you to tell my viewers. how did Christopher Stone get the role of your husband?
Yeah, I know. Everybody thought it was nepotism. So Dan Blatt, our beautiful producer, called and said, well, Dee, we've got a great cast for you. We're still looking for your husband, though. We can't find somebody really right. And I went, well, what exactly are you looking for? Now, again, not a real blonde. I had read the script, and this had never occurred to me. And they said, well, we want somebody who's really virile, but with a real sensitive side also. And I went, my God, I'm living with him. Christopher would be perfect. But also in that second, I went, don't you dare say that, Dee, because if they know you're engaged, they're not, he ain't going to have a chance. So I said, you know, there's this guy I worked with, Christopher Smith or Stone, some S word. I think it was on Chips. And he might be right. So they went and searched and found him on their own. He went in an audition. He got it on his own. And the phone rings the next day, and I pick it up and go, hello. And Dan goes, Dee? I went, hi, Dan, what's going on? He said, I'm sorry. You know that guy you suggested? Well, we found him and we loved him and we hired him. And I was calling to talk to him. I guess I've got the wrong number. And I said, nope, you got the right number. And there was this long silence. And then you heard, oh, shit. And I said, Dan, you know, you'll only have to get one trailer. It's really positive. Come on. He said, you're going to gang up on me. In the end, they were really happy that Chris was there to handle me through some of all the hysterical stuff.
Yeah. Well, I have to say, you make a very cute werewolf.
You like my Bambi werewolf at the end?
I love that. It looks like similar to a Pekingese.
Yeah. Well, and how that happened was they showed it to a bunch of people. And when the cards came back, every card said, we want to see Dee Wallace's character as a werewolf.
Mm-hmm.
So I was doing Cujo, and they called me, and I went, well, because I had it in my contract that I would never appear as a werewolf. I don't know why it was important back then, but it seemed to be. So they had to get my permission, and I said, well, okay, but I can't get off the set. You know, I'm shooting through December, and Joe Dante said, oh, we don't need you. We just need your permission. So all that's an animatronic.
Oh, really?
Yeah, nobody's behind that makeup. And all I said to them was, can you make my werewolf a little more vulnerable because she's fought so hard? Mm-hmm. And they came up with that little Bambi werewolf.
I love it.
Amazing how things happen and conspire, huh?
I know. Well, as I mentioned, you worked with some of my favorite directors. Spielberg is definitely one of them. Another one of my favorites is Peter Jackson. I loved his early movies, Dead Alive and Bad Taste. What was it like working with him on The Frighteners?
An absolute joy.
Mm-hmm.
Peter is a big hobbit. He's just kind and sweet and brilliant.
Yes.
But at the point that I worked with him, he still had quite a bit of weight on. And he would, if it's in winter time, right, in New Zealand, or going into winter, and he would come to the set in flip-flops and shorts and a down jacket with this big bushy beard. I mean, seriously, he looked like a hobbit. But he is the kindest, sweetest. I'll give you a story. A lot of people don't know that my husband had a heart attack and died while I was doing The Frighteners. Mm-hmm. And so he had a heart attack, and I flew back to take care of him. He was okay. I flew back to finish filming. 4 days later, he died. I had to fly And you know how far it is.
Yes.
It's halfway around the world, literally. So in 2.5 weeks, I flew halfway around the world 4 times. And the production manager said, don't worry about it, Dee. We'll take care of the flights. You can settle up at the end of the movie.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it would have been my whole freaking salary pretty much. And I went in like the good girl I am to settle up with them. And she looked at me and she said, don't worry, Peter is going to take care of this for you.
Wow.
This is Peter's gift to you.
Wow.
That's just the kind of guy he is.
Yeah, that's very, very nice. Wow. That, and your role in that movie is so great. You were so over the top. You and Jake Busey.
I had a ball.
I could tell.
Oh my
loved it.
God. I had such a ball playing that simpy little victim and arcing into that killer, crazy woman. I just love that. That's what rocks my boat.
Yeah, and you do it very well.
Thank you.
Now, The Howling caught the attention of Steven Spielberg. The two of you made a little-known movie. It's entitled E.T. the Extraterrestrial, and you said you consider this movie to be this generation's Wizard of Oz.
No, for sure.
Yeah, definitely. I cannot disagree with that. But
well, it's going to live forever.
Oh, yeah.
And it has the same message as the Wizard of Oz. The power's within you. You've got to keep your heart open. You've got to trust yourself. And you always get back home. Dorothy got back home. E.T. got back home. Peter Pan got back. We've been hearing it in the great movies forever. I am just hoping that we apply it to the movie of our life now.
Very good. Now, this is the movie that has you typecast as a mother, and this, Cujo, and other movies. You have a great story. I want you to tell my viewers about this. The death scene with Drew Barrymore, the death scene of E.T.
Drew was so sweet, but she was 4 years old, and at that age, they can't really tell between reality and fantasy. So she's waiting on a sound stage until we get the scene all ready to shoot, because it's not good to bring kids in and make them wait around. So, being the motherly figure that I am, I went to go get her on the sound stage, and I bent down and I said, okay, Drew, we're going to go do E.T.'s scene where he's dying now. But he's not really dying. He's just acting like we do. And she looked at me and she said, I know, Dee, do you think I'm stupid? Which, of course, Steven used a lot in the movie.
Yes.
So I picked her up. We walked in. She took one look at E.T. and goes, Dee's dying, do something. And Steven's going, roll it out, right? I mean, like that. Wow. It was totally forgot the conversation, and she was just into it.
Now, I love this story. Tell me the story of the woman that brought her autistic son to see E.T. and the profound effect that it had on him.
Yeah, she came up to me at a convention, and she said, Miss Wallace, I just want you to know you've been a part of a miracle in my life. And she proceeded to tell me about her autistic son who was 10 years old. She had never heard him speak a word. And she took him to see the re-release of E.T. Mm-hmm. And on the way home, he started saying every line that E.T. said.
Wow.
Can you imagine not hearing your child speak for 10 years?
Wow.
I mean, she said, I pulled over to the side of the road and just wept while I was trying to stay present in the moment in case it went away.
Wow.
Yeah.
That is a very touching story. I love that story.
Well, I have a young gentleman came up to me and said, when I was in junior high, I lived in a very, very small town. And my mother and father got divorced, and nobody would talk to me. I became an outcast at school. And then E.T. came out, and you didn't have a husband. And all of a sudden, I was okay to be friends with again.
Wow.
The power that we have over changing people's lives is incredible. I used to tell my students when I taught that we can heal more people in one night than a doctor can in a lifetime.
Now, when you were filming that movie, did you have a feeling that this movie would have this kind of effect on people, that would be a classic? Or was it just another movie at the time to you?
Yeah, I mean, I knew when I read the script, I called my agent and I said, look, I don't know how much this is going to do for me, but I think it's going to do a lot for the world, and I want to be a part of it.
Yeah. Well, Melissa Matheson's great.
Oh my God, Melissa Matheson, all of the stuff that she's written has so much soul,
yeah,
and heart to it. And I don't think any creative goes into a creative experience saying, oh, I'm gonna do this to make the biggest blockbuster, make more money than I've ever had. You know, E.T. was supposed to be Steven's little film.
Yeah.
And I think creative people just go in to do their very best and give from their heart as much as they can. And then when the editing and the music and the timing and how it's released, all of that has to come together, and then is the public ready for the message? Then you've got a hit.
Yeah, and they were definitely ready. Now, you said the movie that made you a Scream Queen, which was Cujo, was the hardest film that you ever made.
I'd say that's an understatement, yeah.
I guess that's a yes. Well, I have to say, you and Danny Pintauro had such great chemistry. And the two of you in that car, and there's one scene in the movie, and I want to talk to you about this, where he kept asking for his father. All right, I'll get your father. I guess
that was very good.
Oh, thank you.
You're welcome.
That was my first screen test. But I guess that scared the producers at first, because, well, tell my viewers why that scared the producer.
Well, they came up to me the day after and said, oh God, the scene is so powerful, but we want you to watch it. We're afraid the viewers won't like you. And I watched it, and I turned around to Dan and I said, Dan, if you take this out, you're crazy. There's not a parent out there who has not felt that moment. Whether they actually lost it and screamed, they know. And of course, then after it came out, that was one of the scenes the critics talked about the most.
Oh, yeah. Well, you could feel the helplessness, that you wanted to save your kid and there's nothing you could do. And your performance was so genuine. And
thank you.
It impressed the King, Stephen King, that is. He said that was one of his favorite performances in any of his movies.
Yes, he's very generous when he talks about my performance.
I mean, just look, I mean, you have Jack Nicholson, you have Kathy Bates, you have so many, and for him to say, and that is you're right, a huge compliment. And I have to agree with him. I love Cujo. I love your performance. And it's just you, Danny, in a car and a dog. And it's so intense. And it's like a horror movie with not a lot of gore, too. That's what makes it great, because it's so much character development, and that's what makes the movie.
Yeah, and your apprehension about what's coming.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? And let me tell you, and this is true, I got up every morning and I said, thank you, God, for Danny Pintauro. And thank you, God, for Carl Miller, who trained all the dogs. And thank you for Louis Teague. You know, Louis wasn't our original director. Peter Medic was. And the first 2 days on the set, we found that Peter had very different ideas than most of us about what this movie was about. And Dan had worked with Lewis originally to do this, and then it changed studios, and the studios wanted Peter. Well, anyway, when all this went down, he went to the studio and said, look, this guy can come in and start immediately. We won't lose any time. We're not going to lose any. So they said, okay. And Lewis, I mean, that part was absolutely the hardest thing I've ever done in my career.
Yeah.
And Lewis was this calm, kind, just sweet presence on the set that helped all of us get through it. I'm still good friends with Lewis and Joe.
Another very intense scene was when Danny had the seizure.
Yeah. And so, like Drew, I said, okay, Danny, well, we're going to have to do this scene. And you know, you're just, and he looked at me and said, oh, Dee, that happened to me when I was little. You want to see? And he goes right into it, right? I went, I did not have to worry about that kid.
No, not at all.
It was like working with another adult, working with Danny.
Well, you worked with so many great actors in your career. And speaking of great actors, your daughter, Gabrielle Stone, is also an actress. So I guess the acorn doesn't fall far from the tree. When she first approached you and said she wanted to become an actress, was there any trepidation?
Nope.
Not at all?
Nope. Because I know that when you're meant to do something, you're born to do it.
Yeah.
Let me tell you, I have a sonogram of her dancing in me, doing this and pointing her toes. And I mean, every night of her life, she put on a play, did a song and dance, choreographed something. I mean, it's just who she is, you know?
Natural.
But, you know, right now, she considers her greatest achievement her book, which is helping so many people. And it's such a great millennial book. Eat, Pray, #FML. If anybody wants to get their life together and have a really fun read, Britton Buchanan, I just did an interview with him. He was runner-up on The Voice. And he had read Gabrielle's book. He said, you know, because he's an avid reader, he said, I never read a book in one day except for Flannery O'Connor. And now I've read 2.
Wow.
He said he just couldn't put it down. So Eat, Pray, #FML. I'm being a little mother here and throwing that out for everybody.
Oh, plug away. Right now, during the editing phase, you're going to see that on the screen so everybody can go out and buy a copy.
Yay!
Yes.
Yay! And all my books are available on Amazon also.
Oh, yeah, we're going to be plugging that as well. Now, in 2016, you received an Emmy nomination for your work in General Hospital. Tell me about that.
Oh my God. Let me tell you, I was never so scared to do anything in my life. The amount of lines that I had, I went, how do you guys do this? And they were so kind on that set. They would come and get me. The actors had it down. They'd get together whenever they were off. They'd run lines. You know, somebody would help each other with lines, because you really don't get another take.
Yeah.
I begged for another take on one shot. And the producer, I'm sure, went, well, hell, she's worked for Steven Spielberg. We've got to give her another take, right? But I really understood the part. I really got her. And yeah, I was very blessed that they recognized my work in that. and we are going to have to start wrapping it up.
Okay.
I hate it. I'm having so much fun.
I know. I love this. I'm having a great time. So I have two more questions for you. You worked in several movies with Rob Zombie. The last one was the sequel to Devil's Rejects. It was entitled Free from Hell. You are completely unrecognizable in that movie. I loved it.
Thank you. Yeah, a critic actually called Rob and said, you know, I love the film. I'm writing a great review, but you've got Dee Wallace. Did you just cut her out because she's not in the film? And Rob said, oh, she's there. Go back and look. She has quite a substantial part. And he called back and he went, my God, I would never have known that was Dee Wallace.
You are the prison guard.
Yeah. And I had it, when I read it, I went, no way can she look like this, right? And I called Rob and I said, I got to dye my hair brown. I got to slick it back. Can I have glasses? Can I have really nerdy glasses to wear? And he was just on board with all of it. And God, I love working with Rob.
Yeah.
You'll never talk to an actor that doesn't love working with Rob.
Yeah, he seems so mellow and down to earth. I've seen him in interviews.
Yeah.
My personal favorite in one of his movies of you is Lords of Salem. I love you as the witch. You are so evil.
Thank you. But again, it was one of those parts where I started out sweet,
yes,
you know, and made this huge arc. And again, I remember I'm sitting in my dressing room getting ready to do the scene after we've given her to Satan, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm feeling all like, bleh, like I got bugs all over me. And I know that's my sign that something isn't truthful.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm sitting there and going, and I ran to Rob and I said, Rob, I can't look like this. This is how she looked, you know, when she was playing the part, when she was fooling everybody, that she was this nice. I can't look like that. I got to slick my hair back. I gotta look different. And this is exactly what he did. You got 10 minutes.
Well, that's all you needed because you were great in that movie.
Thank you.
All right, so I want to thank you very, very much for being on the show. It was a pleasure. And anytime you want to come back on, you're more than welcome. So for you, what's next and where can people find you?
They can find me on my website. I am deewallace.com. It's mostly my healing work. You can call into my free radio show.
What's the number for that?
Well, it's right on my homepage.
Okay.
I am D-E-E, Wallace.com.
Okay.
And it's right on my homepage, how to get to the radio show, 9 a.m. Pacific time, Sunday mornings. And I'm all over social media, guys. You can find me there. Yeah.
All right. Well, Dee, thank you very much. It was an honor having you on the show. You were in close to 200 movies. I can't wait to see you in another 200 movies.
Your mouth to God's ears, babe. And
All right.
Thanks for all the great questions, and thanks for the research you did. Very much appreciated from somebody who's probably done, I don't know, 1 million of these. So we really appreciate people who do their work on your end. Thanks.
That is the best compliment. So thank you very much for that.
You're welcome.
All right. Well, that wraps up another episode of the Claws Corner, the Zoom edition. It was an honor to have the extremely talented, beautiful, funny, and the happiest person I know, Dee Wallace. I would also like to thank you, the viewer, for tuning in. Enjoy your day, everyone.
Come